This video is sponsored by Thermold magazines. How goes it, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Emmett, and the weapon I'm firing today is a DSA SA58, colloquially known as an FAL. This video is not about the rifle, but if I have to answer any questions about it, I will say that this rifle is a vibe, and I love it.
Oh yeah, right, dude.
What?
Fucking badass.
What I don't love about this rifle is the availability of magazines. In the current market, there are two companies, to my knowledge, that produce metric pattern FAL magazines, with a third-party retailer being Gunbroker. Unless you have some serious cash to spend, I for now would not recommend Gunbroker. That leaves us with two options for box magazines: the company that still makes the FAL, DSA arms, and another company known as Thermold magazines. For those of you who may already be at the keyboard furious that I forgot someone in this mix, my rebuttal is the following. Please remember, our magazines are garbage. In my experience, they can't get AR-15 magazines correct without having the end user file off unneeded material or feed correctly. So to me, as a sample case of one, I do not consider them worth the time. Before I go any further, I want to reiterate, I am a sample size of 1. Your mileage with anything further in this video relating to FAL magazines will vary, but above all else, I will say this: at the end of the day, the weapon is a tool. If you had to bet your life on it, which pray that no one ever does, I would personally want everything to work flawlessly. Buy quality when you can. Today, I have for your consideration a small selection of FAL magazines at my disposal. First, we have a DSA FAL magazine in polymer. This is a plain Jane default that comes with every FAL that goes out their door. This, at the time of the video, will run you about $19.95 or $20. Second, the star of the review, Thermold magazine, coming in at $29.95 or $30. Originally, I had wanted to test these for an Arctic review. However, due to my own poor timing, I missed the boat on that by a few months. However, there will be a secondary follow-up review on these magazines, assumingly if they survive the test today. Third, what I suspect to be a KCI magazine. This one I really lucked out on, buying 4 of them at my local gun shop for about $35 a pop. So far, I have not really seen them pop up anywhere else. And finally, we have a surplus Israeli FAL magazine. These I bought from Gunbroker. The price on these will vary wildly at time of my purchase, from $50 to as high as $80, maybe $100 a magazine. First up for PMCS, we have the easiest magazine to work with, the DSA Polymer Arms magazine. Inspecting the outside of the magazine, we clearly see it is a polymer with no external reinforcement. At the bottom of the magazine, the floor plate can easily be removed with a bullet, stick, or whatever else you may have at your possession, pressing the button and then sliding forward, revealing all of the springy goodness inside. Inside, we have a standard FAL box magazine spring hooked up to an anti-tilt follower. Outside of the disassembly, there's nothing really special about this magazine, and it holds 20 rounds of .308 or 7.62 by 5.1. For the sake of time, I will be showing both the Israeli and the KCI magazine on screen. You can ID the KCI because it has a shinier coat to it versus the Israeli, which is a little bit more gray. Externally, these are the exact same. Internally, they are the exact same. There's not much to be said about these. The floor plate can be removed with the assistance of a bullet tip, pulling up a little bit on the floor plate and then sliding it back from the hole in the rear. I will say from the onset, I do like metal magazines better. I am more tilted towards those. They have a greater durability. You can drop them and it would be hard for them to break, and you really have to put in a full force of effort in order to try to ruin these magazines. If anything, I will say this: apart from DSA, these do not have anti-tilt followers, which I thought would be a standard, but you also have to remember kind of sort of the time that these magazines were made. That anti-tilt wasn't really, in my opinion, or at least from what I can tell, I should say, a thing. These magazines hold 20 rounds of .308 or 7.62 by 51. For the last of the bunch, we have Thermold. Externally, this magazine is similar to the DSA magazine, considering that they are both some kind of polymer. However, with the Thermold magazine, for me, it feels like the broadsides of it are a little bit flimsy only when it's on an empty magazine. Unlike the DSA magazine, it has extra plastic built up around it. And in my opinion, again, the broadsides feel like they don't really have too much of a texture to it, which is weird, but hey, it is what it is. For disassembly of this magazine, you are working with a 2-tab system. Gently take a 308 round and press the detent on the front of the magazine. From there, you can grab the floor plate and gently pull down and back, and that will release the spring as well as pull out the other tab from the back of the magazine. It is the, in my opinion, second easiest one to work with when it comes to disassembly on this list. Unfortunately, when you do this, you're going to see that this magazine does not have an anti-tilt follower, but it does still hold the standard of 20 rounds of 308 or 7.62 by 51. For those of you who are curious of what an anti-tilt follower is, I will leave a description in the video below. It will link you to a literal 60-second Brownells video explaining what it is. The reason I harp on this so much is because it is of my opinion that I personally believe anti-tilt followers should be a standard across all magazines without exception. From PMCS, we'll go into the ammo retention of the magazines. We'll conduct this brief portion with a standard drop test. We are going to index the magazines in my plate carrier, attempt a reload with my butterfingers, drop the magazine, and see what happens. For the ground today, we have gravel, which is sort of as good as anything else you're going to have between sand, dirt, and solid concrete. But generally, for me, as a rule of thumb, if you drop a loaded magazine and it's at full capacity, you're going to lose maybe a round or two. In the case of the polymer, you will probably damage the magazine, but we'll get on with it and let the results speak for itself.
They're starting to kick off around it, so I think it's just because the barrel's
And now the moment you've been waiting for. Do they run? All of these runs will be conducted with 19 rounds per magazine, loaded with my 150 grain hand-loaded special. I run them at 19 rounds and not 20 max because it aids with feeding the ammo into the weapon on a fresh magazine. First up, we have the DSA. Israeli. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the show portion of the review. Overall, how would I rate these magazines based on my sample size on a 3-part scale between go, training, and no-go? In the go category, it's hard to beat good aluminum or steel magazines. The KCI and Israeli magazines go here. Even for the fault of not having an anti-tilt follower, I'd rate these magazines a clear go because they are robust and rigid. Also, just get the DSA pack of followers. They sell for about $13 and you get 3 of them in a pack, so there's that. In the training category, these are magazines that are good for the weekend warrior or the person who is just training with their weapon. The DSA polymer mags go here. By all means, if that's all you can get at the time, then yes, use them for duty magazines. I wouldn't recommend it, but like I said, the barren wasteland that is FAL magazines, you're kind of taking what you can get at this point. In the no-go category, Pro Mag. They will forever remain in the no-go category. They are not moving anywhere from that category. However, with all that being said, where does this put Thermold's magazine? To be honest, it actually did better than what I thought it would do, especially in the drop test. Granted, it was a single site drop test, but I ended up shooting a little bit more with the magazine. It actually did pretty well minus 1 hiccup, hence why I emphasized the anti-tilt follower, but I would actually put it in the training category. The only downside to the magazine that I can see right now is that it's just $10 more expensive than a DSA magazine. And also, I believe DSA has their magazines everywhere, whereas Thermold has fewer distributors outside of Keltec because they use it for the RFB. But then again, I am only looking at the sample size that I'm currently in Alaska, so your mileage may vary from another state. While the magazines did actually do very well for my use case scenario, I will offer some suggestions to better these magazines, because you also have to stop and think. These magazines are about $10 more expensive, and they don't have an anti-tilt follower. So to Thermold magazine, initially I want to offer these few suggestions. And before I offer these, let me go ahead and state that I honestly don't know anything about business. I am just the end user, and I'm just giving my personal thoughts and opinions on how you could improve this product to kind of sort of give it an edge over your current competition and give people a good reason as to why they should spend an extra $10 on your product. The first thing that I would do, hands down, put an anti-tilt follower in there. Honestly, as I keep hopefully saying throughout this video, it should be a standard. All it does is really help you. It really costs nothing because you're just adding maybe like an extra couple of cents worth of plastic on the end of it. So yeah, that would be the first thing that I would do. Secondly, what I would do is I would add some texture to your magazine, stipple the magazine a little bit, especially on the broad sides of it. The reason I put this out here is because your magazines really do just have no grip on the sides, and I understand they do have this bulge right there near the bottom that's supposed to be as a gripping surface. I feel like you could actually still do a little bit better if you just added just some basic level stippling. It doesn't have to be overly aggressive, but just some extra grippiness for people to grab onto. And those are just kind of sort of the main two that I want to offer as an improvement to your magazines to really seal the deal. If you want to go above and beyond, what you could do is do like Mad Cole or like Moses Magazines did with their magazines, and just put kind of sort of a beefed up plastic cage around it, so that way it gives it a little bit more rigidity. But other than that, hi, Emmett in editing here. There is also one more suggestion that I would like to pose to Thermold. Please, please, please reinforce your locking tab. There's a reason why on most AKs that is reinforced with steel. If that locking tab, particularly in the front, goes out, the whole magazine then becomes useless. For now, for me, I really don't have any complaints with the magazines. I want to thank you again, Thermold Magazines, for sponsoring the video. Hopefully I will be around for that long. I don't know, life is weird, but I will also try to get at least a couple of these magazines or this singular one out to another training event, but I'm going to try to push it until the winter because I really kind of sort of want to see what happens when you introduce an Arctic element to these magazines. And hopefully it's not going to be what I'm guesstimating it might be, but time will tell. As for everybody else, I want to thank y'all for watching. Y'all stay safe, have a good one, and I'm out.